Bigwyn?
Yes, Fellmaster.
What are you doing down here? It's not sanitary, you know. Besides, I thought you were going to help me with the Halloween review this year. What's the matter?
I know not, Fellmaster. Something about the eldritch glow of the lanterns,
Those are tea lights. You put them in the pumpkins yourself.
and the terrified screams of tortured children echoing in the night air.
Those are trick-or-treaters. They've had a bit too much sugar, that's all.
They just don't fill me with exquisite dread the way they used to.
Well, what if I told you that I had a game so thick with macabre atmosphere it leaves mortal men trembling and begging for salvation?
Oh, Fellmaster, that sounds just the thing that I am missing. What is this divine game?
It's called... Here on Nameless Seraphim Gaming, our love for the horror genre in all its many forms and flavours runs pretty deep. With a tidal wave of games on the market featuring dark mysteries, alien menaces or supernatural foes, confining the genre to Halloween is as impractical as it is undesirable. But I've always felt that Halloween is a great opportunity to play games with friends and family that might not have as much experience of the tabletop hobby. The challenge, of course, is finding a game that is compelling enough to engage your group, whilst also being approachable for new gamers who may not have the same tolerance for dusty tomes packed with complicated rules. Published by independent game studio Themeborne, Escape the Dark Castle has the genetic code of a dungeon crawler or medieval adventure game somewhere in its DNA, but neither seems to adequately capture its gameplay. The game finds you and your companions having just escaped your cells deep within the titular Dark Castle, as illustrated in bleak monochrome by Alex Crispin in a style that evokes the old etchings and engravings of a Victorian horror novel. Within this ostensibly medieval setting lurks traps, monsters and adversaries all standing between you and your freedom. Your group will be forced to cooperatively navigate these pitfalls in order to win a game where your continued existence feels like the greatest prize.
To escape the Dark Castle, your group will slowly reveal 15 randomly dealt chapter cards, each containing a unique decision or fight to resolve, before confronting a final boss. If you manage to do so without any member of your party being killed, freedom will be yours. But the game is deliberately brutal and subject to significant swings in fortune that mean it is all too likely one of you will be killed, ending the game in defeat.
At the start of the game, each player will select a character which will possess a particular balance of the game's core skills of might, cunning, and wisdom, as indicated on the tally shown on their character card. This tally correlates to the frequency with which each skill appears on the character's dice, and therefore the likelihood a given symbol will be rolled. This dice will be used to interact with the enemies and puzzles that arise from the chapter cards. Each chapter will commence with the selection of one of the players to lead. In a sense, they will open the door by turning the chapter card over and reading the flavour text for this new chamber. Any effects where U is capitalised specifically affect the player that has turned the chapter card. So whilst not all of the chapters will feature such effects, it does make the risk of an unfortunate end slightly higher for the leading player each turn. Not all the chapter cards result in combat, but most do, and how this works is worth covering in detail. Your adversary's health is determined by a specific list of skill symbols, to which one additional chapter die will be added per player, with the symbol determined randomly. Enemies will also sometimes apply a unique combat special rule that modifies the basic rules, for example this card where the malevolent spirit incapacitates the lead player during the first combat turn. To win the combat, the players will roll their character dice and may then remove one matching symbol from the enemy dice pool. Once they have removed all of the enemy dice, the combat usually ends immediately, but for each turn of combat that their enemy still has at least one chapter die remaining, the players in the combat will lose health points equal to the number on the chapter card. That is, unless a player's die comes up with the shield icon, which normally blocks damage. Consequently, the longer combat continues, the more damage the party as a whole will generally incur, and the less health points they will have to sustain combat in later chapters.
For each turn of combat, one character may rest, removing them from the fight temporarily, protecting them from damage, and allowing them to heal a point of health. With health being such a crucial resource to manage during the game, resting is likewise essential as the key mechanism for restoring lost health and prolonging the life of your characters. However, doing so significantly reduces the number of dice rolled in a combat turn and can prolong the combat, resulting in more damage to the characters overall. Balancing the need to heal with the need to ensure combats conclude as painlessly as possible is one of the more agonizing decisions players will make during the game.
Your efforts are further aided by a variety of item cards which are granted through the completion of certain chapters or by winning a combat. Some of these will be one-off bonuses, such as a free reroll from a liquid luck potion, or some additional health points from eating the infested cheese wheel. Weapons and relics such as the rusted flail, on the other hand, provide persistent bonuses that will often help your group to deal with confrontations in the castle more swiftly. Each character in your group can hold a maximum of 2 items at a time, or 1 if that item is two-handed, and these cannot be swapped mid-chapter, adding an additional layer to the tactics of the game as you debate which combinations and characters will make the most effective use of this limited resource. If I'm honest, making the survival of all the players a win condition doesn't feel like the most thematic element of the game, but it certainly changes the way you'll make decisions. Your group will need to judge carefully who should rest and when in order to ensure the best chance of survival. Selecting who turns each chapter card, knowing that the selected individual may well suffer more heavily than the other players from whatever waits on the other side, feels like a critical choice rather than a matter of taking turns.
Every horrific sight, sound, taste, and smell the castle has to offer oozes from the art style of Escape the Dark Castle, combined with the deliciously terrible flavor text on each card, immersing players in the setting every bit as much as the punishing gameplay. Every turn of a chapter card represents an opportunity for a most terrible defeat, but there is also a sense of delight in discovering what the castle will throw at you next. Even elation when the dice roll in your favour, and just for once you complete a chapter without injury. The rareness of such victories are what makes them so potent.
The quick setup time and slim rule set are advantageous when introducing the game to younger, less experienced or more casual players. The components and art feel somehow retro despite being their own thing, putting me in mind of such hiding-under-the-bed experiences as the choose-your-own-adventure books and paper role-playing games of my childhood. Whilst we feel the recording of health points could have been better served by a dial of some kind rather than scribbling out pencil every turn like a 17th century accountant, there is no doubt that every piece of this game, from the chunky dice to the monochrome style, contributes to the story it is trying to tell. The cooperative nature of the game will definitely assist new players, who can benefit from the advice of more experienced players. But the group dynamic is crucial here. Quieter players are in danger of becoming passengers to the game, simply rolling dice when they are told to do so, rather than being fully participant. So it's important to ensure what little agency you have in Escape the Dark Castle is spread evenly throughout the group. In addition, the atmosphere generated through the reading of the flavour text is definitely not something that you can skip without detriment to the experience, and so the game may be less suited to anyone who feels uncomfortable reading descriptive prose out loud.
New players should also understand that you are going to die horribly in the bowels of the Dark Castle more often than not. It is no small feat to survive 15 chapter cards, never mind whatever boss is waiting for you at the castle exit. Death lurks around every corner, and if you are the sort of person that prefers to win cooperative games, then this game will provide a real challenge, but one that ultimately you may feel you don't enjoy.
A big reason for this is how much the success or failure of your group relies on luck rather than on any strategy you adopt. Whilst this is a criticism that could be levelled at a lot of dice-based games, it's very apparent how much of your experience is down to chance. What chapters are revealed, what items you draw, the results of combat are all determined randomly. And whilst you can modify these factors to some extent by timely use of item cards and decisions about how combat will be played, it's easy to feel like your decisions have limited effect on the long-term outcomes and almost no effect in the short term. You will die and die and die again playing Dark Castle, and whilst this is in keeping with the horror of its theme, the unsettling feeling that this outcome isn't really down to your choices can make failure wear thin pretty quickly. If you like your dungeons to be more of a strategic puzzle than an interactive storybook, then this game might not be the best fit for you.
The presence of narrative expansions in Themeborne's larger range, such as the Death Book, which provides a unique paragraph or two describing the death of your characters based on which specific chapter card finally brings about your demise, and Tales from the Dark, which provides insight into the lore of the characters and bosses featured in the game, gives further clues as to Escape the Dark Castle's true ambition as a game focused on storytelling and the creation of a very specific atmosphere. Deciding whether this game is for you really comes down to whether you can get behind a game that is less about winning or strategy or the intelligence of the players, and more about immersion. As a channel that appreciates the story of our games, it is certainly something that we can get behind, but it won't be for everyone.
It also won't be a game that you are in the mood for every day, or one ideally suited to repetitive play for a full spooky evening. In theory, every escape is unique due to the random draw, but even with 45 chapter cards in the core game, you will quickly start seeing repeats arise during successive playthroughs, as a third of these cards will be used every game. It is for this reason that we're trying very hard in this review not to reveal too many of the cards and potentially spoil the surprise of encountering the Dark Castle's many horrors for yourself. Themeborne does offer a range of expansions for the game, many of which add additional chapter cards to keep the game fresh, but if I'm honest, I feel the core game could have used another 30 chapters or so from the outset. Even without this issue, whilst it is technically possible to play many rounds of Castle in an evening, after a few unsuccessful runs, you may find your group has been adequately pummeled by the game's unforgiving yet luck-heavy style, and is ready to move on to something else. None of these flaws are really design errors, but rather they are consequences of the creator's commitment to thematic experience. Escape the Dark Castle isn't trying to be a strategic puzzle for you to solve, or a heroic adventure where you are always going to come out on top. Rather, Escape the Dark Castle is about bringing together a group of friends and creating the feel of a horror-filled dungeon. It's about wondering what will be around the next corner, savouring every grisly description, and watching with horror as the roll of a dice decides whether you survive. It's about the story, and if this game suits your style, I suspect it's one that you will take off the shelf every once in a while and play a game or two, maybe introduce it to a few friends who haven't played it before, or save it for an autumn evening when the moon is high and you're in just the right mood to venture back into the castle and see where the dice will fall. What do you think, Bigwyn? Put you in the Halloween spirit?
Oh yes, Fellmaster, a most delightful game.
Excellent. If you like, you can cheer yourself up even more by getting everything ready for our Halloween celebrations.
The matter has already been attended to, Master. I have arranged bountiful feasts for the rats, and poison for the children, just as you requested.
I think you said that the wrong way around.
I don't believe so, Master.
Well, that's disturbing. Look, I'd better go and save us from another unfortunate incident. Bigwyn, you can handle the outro, can't you?
With pleasure, Fellmaster. Let us know in the comments if you try this game, or tell us what you love about it if you are already a fan. We have only looked at the core game in this review, but do let us know if you would like us to give our thoughts on Escape the Dark Castle's Adventure Pack expansions in a future video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your fellow prisoners, or consider subscribing to ensure you don't miss future videos. Until we meet among the jack-o'-lanterns once more, reviled viewers, you are instructed to work hard, play better, and take care out there. If you can.